Hi, everybody. I'm Jenny. Thanks for listening. I'm a life coach, and this is my third video about a course that I'm getting ready to launch. So, in the first video, we kind of did an overview about why INFJs get stuck healing. And in the second video, we talked about the psychological perspective of having fragmented parts. And then in this video, we're going to talk about the shamanic perspective, which is similar to the psychology perspective, but it's called soul loss. And so this is based on the idea that there are other worlds that cannot be accessed in the ordinary reality. Another word for this is the non-ordinary reality. In psychology, this is called the subconscious. And shamans are healers who travel into these other realms to do their healing work. And this traveling into other realms is called journeying. And basically, it's using your imagination. And using your imagination connects you to a universal web of power. Carl Jung, I would argue, did journeying. There's a book that came out after he died called The Red Book, and it's all the notes that he was too afraid to publish because he thought he would just face ridicule and rejection. But Carl Jung would travel into his imagination. He had this imaginary friend there, and he documented all these things that he learned about the subconscious. And he was too afraid to publish it, but now it's published in this book called The Red Book. So what causes soul loss? Any kind of trauma causes soul loss. And it's important to remember that it's anything that was traumatic for a child, for you when you were at that age. So even if you can logically as an adult look at something, make sense of something, and see it as not that traumatic, what matters is if it felt traumatic to you when you were a child. Maybe as an adult, you can say, oh, my parents did love me. They were trying their best, but as a child, you just felt completely unseen. That's traumatic. And so when we go through trauma, from the shamanic perspective, a piece of our soul gets lost. So things that can cause this are death, sickness, living through natural disasters, accidents, surgeries, abuse, drug use, abandonment, bullying, any kind of trauma. And when we experience this trauma, that part of us leaves the body. And soul loss also can beget soul loss. So in the case with abusers, in many cases, they were also abused. And so basically when someone gets abused, that abuser is stealing part of their soul. And then when that manifests into that person becoming an abuser, now they're trying to get their soul back by stealing other people's souls. So soul theft is also a thing that happens. And so journeying is all about retrieving those lost parts and bringing them home, or stealing those lost parts back, which can sometimes involve a little bit of trickery. But it's about going and finding those parts and bringing them home. In these other worlds, anything is possible. There are no rules. This is the world of dreams. This is the world of the imagination. This is the world of unwritten stories. With intuitive writers often have an experience where they're just seeing into another world and writing about it, or characters are coming directly to them and telling them a story. more so than they're just, inventing an outline and then writing from there. So this is where unwritten stories live. You're actually peering into these other worlds. It's where you go to talk to ancestors, to God or gods, to people who have passed away, to access lost knowledge, to access the past, to access the future. Anything is possible. It's full of fantasy creatures. There's also dangerous things there, dangerous creatures, evil souls. And so it's important to not go alone. You want to go with either a real or an imaginary helper. And then there's in a lot of cultures, there's a very similar landscape across different cultures of there being an upper world, a middle world, and a lower world. So the upper world is the world of dreams. It's where you go to connect to source or the universe or God, or however you think of that. The higher consciousness, the divine. The underworld is where you go to access lost knowledge, old memories, lost souls. And I do want to pause here and just say, shamanism is found in every country all over the world. Like, it's very interesting because there are so many similarities. Even if you go to completely different cultures, if you go and look at the shamanic practices, they're all usually very similar, which I think is really interesting. And the other thing I want to say is I feel like no matter what race or culture you are, if you go back far enough, your ancestors practiced shamanism, right? Before like Romanization and like all these pilgrimages and things, pretty much everyone's ancestors, if you go back far enough, practiced shamanism. And so I really think shamanism is something that belongs to everyone. And I am probably not the best messenger to tell you about shamanism. And that's why I actually would really love to make like a crowdsourced list of actual shamans. So if anyone listening has worked with a shaman directly, that you found really helpful, who has contact information, please send that to me, because I would love to do like a list of people that are just being validated through like people who have experienced working with them, because I think there's a lot of charlatans out there too. So I don't want to just like Google a list, but if you've worked with anyone that was like legit, definitely let me know. So yes, okay, so there's different landscapes too. There's caves, there's forests, there's deserts, there's outer space. Any landscape you could possibly imagine is there. Children are very connected to these other worlds. Children are very, very connected. That's why children are always seeing ghosts and things like that. If you had an imaginary friend as a child, your imaginary friend came out of this world. So it's very similar to visualizing and daydreaming. The only difference is you don't always know what you're going to get when you're journeying. With visualizing, you're kind of in control of what's happening. And with journeying, you're very much not in control. You might have predictions or expectations of what you're going to find. And sometimes that is what you find. But there's also usually going to be surprises. So you're not fully in control of what's happening. And the other thing you want to be prepared for is the universe can have a really sick sense of humor. So it helps to keep your sense of humor. And that's pretty much everything I'm going to say for this video. I'm going to save the rest for the class. And so, yeah, just to repeat, I'm not a shaman. Technically, I did spend a year in Druid school, and I'm also technically an ordained minister. And a shaman told me to become an ordained minister because it means I can say whatever I want. So, anyways, you can take that however you like. But that's it as far as kind of the things we're going to touch on in this course. We're going to actually be journeying in this course. We're going to be journeying and then collecting fragments that I talked about in the other video. So it's going to be very trippy, and you're going to really need to lean into your imagination and be very open to that. And I think it'll be really intense, but really hopefully enjoyable too. So just be really, really ready to lean hard into your imagination. Sorry, my cat is trying to participate. So the next video is just going to be to announce the launch of this course. It's probably going to take me about a week, I think, to have everything ready. So be on the lookout for that. I really don't have full control over how long it takes. It's kind of like I have to wait for downloads. It's like, that's how I work, is I'll have an idea, like a seed, and I can't control how fast the seed grows. I have to like wait for downloads, and then at some point it's just done growing. So I'm hoping about a week. Keep an eye out for that. If you have any questions in the meantime, please send them to me. I don't know what the price is going to be yet. It depends on how bulky the course ends up being. But I don't want it to be too intense for people. I want it to be really digestible. So it's probably just going to be a couple of short to medium length videos, maybe 3 or 4 videos, and probably some writing prompts, and some like meditations and things. It's not going to be live. It's all going to be pre-recorded. But there will be a Facebook group where you can interact with people. And I think that's everything for now. So I hope to see you guys soon. Send me your questions, and I'll be back later. Bye.